Welcome back to Dry Arabia for another casted game, and this time we have a really exciting Chinese mirror for you. And as I always say, the mirror match is the true test of skill. On the east side in red we have a Chinese player, and on the west side in purple we have Knightmeh also as the Chinese. So Knightmeh sent me this one over and told me it's going to be a really exciting match, so I can't wait to see what we've got going on. And if you want to be awesome like Knightmeh and see your games casted on the channel, then make sure you send me your details, your username, and if you've got the AoE4 link, that is always super helpful, and then you might be the next one to be casted. So whether you're bronze, gold, silver, it doesn't really matter. All we want to see is just some exciting games. Now, let's check out the scouting for both of these players and we'll see what is cracking. So we can see that our Chinese friend in red has gone for a very conservative scouting path round the back. So I'm never a big fan of going down the back of the map first, because you're basically sacrificing the rest of the map in front of you. So you can be lucky if you get the spawn, but you can see here only one sheep, and if he's really unlucky and Knightmeh has cut him off, then he's going to lose out all of the contested sheep in the middle as well. If we take a little look over at Knightmeh's side, we can see, so he's actually been way more aggressive and done this half of the map. So he's got, let's say, 4 now, so it looks fairly even, but he's also going to have enough time to get over here and get the backside before our Chinese friend does. Let's bring it back up and we can look at these spawns. So on Knightmeh's side we can see he's got back berries, he's also got back gold. The stone is very exposed, so if he does decide to go for that 2TC, that's not really ideal, but this backwood line is actually really great for walling off with a little sheep hidden there. We can see him strolling around, so that's really nice and defensible there. This side is a little bit more open, but you do have a couple of walls that you could do across here and then across the front, and you also secure 2 deer packs, 2 berry packs, so all the resources being bunched up here is either really good if Knightmeh can defend it, or really bad if our Chinese friend can actually do some damage on that side. So that's really where this side I'd want to be taking the fights, because you basically deny all of these juicy resources. We can also see now that our Chinese friend has also gone back around, and Knightmeh is now cutting across the middle, so we'll be interested to see what the final haul is. If we take a little look over at our Chinese friend's side, he's got front berries, which is not really great because that's a nice exposed food resource. He's also got front deer, so whereas Knightmeh has 2 side deer, this one's front, but it's obviously guarded by the wood line. He's got a front deer over here, and then his other one is all the way over here, so that food, all of that food is really quite exposed. There's also another front berry pack that's just right in the middle of the map there, so not exactly safe. But we do have a little back one over here, so there is somewhere he could retreat to. The wood lines actually are pretty good for defending the main base, because a little short wall here, and then over on this backside a little short wall from this wood line down past this gold. You can secure those 2 golds and then just focus all of your fight on the front. But securing other resources is going to be a little bit more challenging. So we're almost at resource point for both of these players, and if we take a little look over here, Knightmeh is doing something very cheeky. I think we all know, if we've played against the Chinese, we all know what's coming, we all know what's going to be happening. So we've got 5 villagers coming over, we've got enough for an age up, which means I think we're going to see some Barbicans appearing somewhere. So we can see the blueprint has been, it's not a Barbican, a tower at the moment, so interesting. I was expecting a Barbican to be dropped with that many villagers, but there we go. Delayed tower rush on those berries, so if we have a look, that's just about going to be able to get those villagers off the sheep as well. But the villager pull now to try and see if they can get the tower down. These Chinese villagers build super fast, but Knightmeh's deleted that before he takes any damage, so nicely done there. So both players stacking up quite a lot of resources at the moment. No Imperial Palaces coming down, which is a little bit strange. It's not usually what you would expect, but maybe there's a plan going on. So trying to get that tower up again. The villagers getting pulled a second time. Are they going to get it? No, and the tower cancelled again before the torch damage. So a nice bit of villager micro on both sides, and stealing a cheeky little sheep. So Knightmeh is intent on getting this tower up, and now a defensive tower going up as well. So both players wanting to tower those berries, and Knightmeh surrendering the tower fight there, as there are 9 of these villagers building that there, that's definitely going to be going up. And if you've seen any of the previous games from Knightmeh, either spelt with a K or without, you'll have seen that he tends to get tower rushed and Barbican rushed very, very frequently. So maybe he's decided to put some of the pressure on his opponents in the same way. So we can see these villagers coming down to the gold now. I imagine we're going to see a tower coming up any second, because that would make sense. Oh, okay, really nice here. So there's a defensive tower going on this side and an offensive tower going on that side to block the gold and the stone and the wood. And then it's moved again. Okay, so wow, really cheeky. But while that tower is being taken out, there we can see another load of villagers moving across. We've got 9 this time. So we've got enough for a Barbican. Are we going to see it? Are we seeing towers? I have absolutely no idea. So we can see now that the villagers for Knightmeh are really pushing those guys off that gold, and that tower is going to get up. So our Chinese friend is getting as many resources as he can before they're taken out. Is he going to target fire one of the villagers? Not quite, so they did make it away. But here we go, Barbican time. So if we switch over to the resources there. So this Barbican is going to deny this wood line. It's also going to deny all these berries and all of this food. And we see a Barbican on the south side. We've got some double Barbican action. So if we see here, this Barbican is going to deny gold, stone, and the wood there at the front. And so this one, I would say, out of the two, on the villager pool, there we go. Look at this action. We can see the Barbican is going to go up. Are the villagers going to jump in before they take too much damage? Doesn't look like it. Looks like our Chinese friend isn't paying attention, and those villagers are going down. Just one jumping out now, and Knightmeh retreating before he loses too many of his. So now if we pull the interface back up, we can see now that all of these sheep and all of the berries are now not not manageable there. And don't lose that villager. Oh, that's another villager down. So 5 taken out by our Chinese friend, 3 taken out by Knightmeh, and the second Barbican is up. So not denying that food, but denying gold and stone. So now our Chinese friend is going to have to find some other gold somewhere. But because it's Chinese, they do have the taxes, so he will be able to get up to the next stage, or to start getting gold units when he collects those taxes. So we can see the villagers now have just decided to stay there and start gathering up the wood by the Barbican, so maybe we're going to see some production dropped around that. But Knightmeh has very cleverly moved away from the berries at the front, and he's out on the deer, so his food income is going to still be pumping really hard there. So only 1 villager difference at the moment between these two, and so the villagers here continuing the tower rush. So a sneaky little tower, and if we check it out, it's just outside our Chinese friend's vision, so he's not going to see that. That's going to completely deny all of this wood here, and he's definitely going to be needing some wood to start getting that production. Luckily, he's got it on the top side, and he's also maybe going to be able to steal this spare gold mine here as well. So now actually it looks like our Chinese friend is just going to give up on his home resources and steal them from outside Knightmeh's base. If we take a little look, we've got a blacksmith coming up. We don't see any production down here yet, but it doesn't mean there's not going to be some coming at some point. And we can see Knightmeh has a stables and a barracks going in to get some units out. Is he going to try and take out these villagers by the Barbican? Some of these are low health. A couple of hits from a horseman would do some very nice damage there. And we can see his villagers now, that second tower gone up over by the wood line. So we can see that's completely covered now. And these villagers maybe getting caught out. If Knightmeh sees them coming, he might be able to jump inside the tower, but he looks like he's going for stone, so he's going to try and get some of those emplacements, because that hand cannon, those hand cannon slits can do some huge damage. We do have an Imperial official long walking all the way over to the other side to supervise the gold over here, which is, I think, the right move to make sure that you're getting as much gold and as many taxes as you possibly can. So we've got this scout here guarding those deer, and the villager pulled to take down that tower. They saw it there and they said no thank you. We can see now that the tower at the front is there defending against that horseman raid, but does Knightmeh know that they're still here? If we take a little look at his vision, he doesn't know that they're mining all these resources, so this is potentially a good place to hit, because the Barbican doesn't cover these guys. So now he's towering again, another tower, so towers on towers, and here we go. Gonna do some real damage to these villagers, even if they do the villager pull. That's 5 down for each player now, but our Chinese friend is ahead a little bit, so maybe a little bit of idle time on Knightmeh's side, but that's pushing him off the wood again. So this is all of this idle time is great for Knightmeh. If we take a little look over at this side, we can see hand cannon slits coming in on one of those towers, and we can see some units being built up to try and do some damage. This is looking very interesting. So Knightmeh is going for units, and it looks like our Chinese friend potentially is trying to get a castle age. Some horsemen coming down here to get them on the other wood line. There's only one wood line left, so there's only going to be one place to go. Imperial official getting caught out there. Is he going to take enough damage? But the horsemen have decided to turn around and hit the lumber camp. Oh, that's a shame. Quick, we want to move those guys away before they take too much damage. That health is going to go down very quickly from those cannon shots from the TC. So we definitely don't want to lose any of these horsemen. One more shot and that's going to go down. Is Knightmeh noticing? Not yet. Okay, so that's one down so far. We can see more horsemen in queue, but our Chinese friend is going for Chuganu, which is a bit of a strange response, to be perfectly honest. When you've got a load of horsemen in your base, I wouldn't tend to make archers that can be beaten by horsemen, but maybe these guys know something that I don't. So we've got a load of stone being gathered over here, we've got the reinforcements and the hand cannon slits going in, so now this wood line is going to be completely unattainable with the Barbican and with that tower. The second tower, no defensive emplacements on that yet, but a nice little tower on this front wood line, and that's really going to put him in a dangerous spot. But they are gathering over by the Barbican, so that's going to be a nice source of income there with the Imperial official to buff that up. If we take a little look over, the spearmen running across and the horsemen going, and we've got a blacksmith coming in for all of those upgrades. They've seen the Chuganu and they're going for those defensive iron undermesh, which is exactly the right thing to be doing. So it looks like none of the sheep were pulled away from this mill, so that's quite a lot of food lost there. So if you're ever Barbican dropped or tower dropped and your sheep are under there, shift them away to somewhere else, even if you send them over to a mining camp or something like that, and then you can gather them up later. So definitely make sure you're doing that. It looks like our Chinese friend is being very dangerous now on this front deer. Is Knightmeh going to notice it? It looks like we can see the units coming in, and we're going to go to the cinematic view, the Chuganu to defend and the horsemen coming in, and this is going to be a huge hit on those villagers. Look at that damage. One down, a second one about to be taken out, and now the tower is going to be doing it, burning that tower down rather than focusing on the villagers. This is going to be destroying those defences and meaning that they can't go out on that front deer, and this is where the spawn in this mirror match is making a huge difference, because our Chinese friend doesn't have the safe resources that Knightmeh does. He wasn't able to shift onto that safe deer as easily, and because Knightmeh's gone heavily into units, he's now able to do a huge amount of damage. Getting that Imperial official down, that's a huge loss, and oh, just caught out in that little choke point, and now the TC hammering down on those spears and getting caught out. Definitely want to make sure those horsemen are running away separate to the spears so they can get away that little bit faster. If we take a look now, we've got the villagers there still gathering up all of that wood. That whole wood line will be gone, I think, before any damage is taken. But we've got the Imperial official on the deer, we've got the berries over here, so Knightmeh is living his best food life. We can take a look now, so it looks like our Chinese friend is going out again onto the deer to try and get some more food. So we're just going to be interesting whether he can defend that. Double towers to try and put a stop to this, but looking at this military count, that's going to be really hard to defend. We've got a lot of food in the bank and not many units to defend, so whether he's hoping to get a castle age and get some nest of bees out quickly enough, that's going to be the question. But another big fight coming in, all of these units coming to do some damage, going to get the Imperial official, not quite, going for the Chuganu so they can't get that mass, and hitting the villagers at the same time. So this is absolute carnage, and the Chuganu are fantastic, but until you have that mass, horsemen really can put a stop to them very, very quickly. So another villager down there, and there's only 10 slots in these towers, and so the rest are getting caught out. Spearmen going over to the wood line there to catch them, and the horsemen are going to burn down these towers to make sure that none of these villagers escape. So huge damage, and a ram coming on the backside as well to take down those towers. So if we take a little look now, we can see the villager numbers dropping dramatically now. 28 villagers down, and so we're now at double the villagers for Knightmeh, and that food eco, no food, no gold, and only a couple on wood. This is a really dangerous spot, and the rest is all idle in these towers. So if these villagers get caught out now, that is the end of the game. What absolute chaos. Barbicans and towers everywhere, and I absolutely love to see it. And here we are just before GG was called, as the horsemen are doing absolute huge damage to the eco of our Chinese friend. To take a little look at the final state of play and what both of these guys could have done differently or better or changed up in their plan. So if we zoom out, bring up the interface and give it a cheeky pause, then we've got enough time to take a little look. So, I think the first thing to mention, I mentioned while we were reviewing the game, is that the spawn in this one was actually really, really important. And before you start thinking that the spawn determined that Knightmeh won this one, I think it's actually just more important to think about the fact that when they're in a mirror match, they both have the same tools available, and so they need to also be really careful of understanding how the map has spawned and how they can actually play it. So if we look at Knightmeh's side, he had these side deer, and so he was able to move out over here when the berries got denied, and so he had safe food sources over here with the berries, the deer, and he's also got another semi-secure deer pack over here. So he secured that food, and as soon as that was all done and he dropped his own Barbican, he started going for production. So once he denied those resources, got to feudal age, he started putting that pressure on. Whereas if we take a little look, the Barbican over here denies food and it denies the second wood line, which is absolutely fine. However, looking at the spawn, not having really many safe food sources, there's only really one safe berry pack at the back. Having this one, personally, I probably, with the berries here and the deer pack and stuff like that, putting a defensive Barbican here probably would have been even better, because it would have allowed our Chinese friend to secure all of that food. That being said, I also think the fact that Knightmeh went heavily into units, and it looks like our Chinese friend was also trying to go for a castle age with all of that food mounting up. That really, I think, is a problem. If you see a huge number of units coming your way, unless you've got lots of defensive structures like a Barbican that's keeping all your food safe, and you have secured food eco, then you can kind of get away with it to a certain point. But when your food's exposed and you've been denied basically all of the gold, and you're in a really risky gold over here, then you've got to be a little bit more defensive and probably start making units way earlier. Chuganu isn't necessarily the wrong play. If you supervise that that archery range and you get them out, you can get them out super quickly, and because you get the taxes, they're actually basically just wood and food, and they're super cheap. But you need to get a mass of them before they do any damage, really. So having 4 or 5 of them isn't going to be able to take out 10 horses and 10 spears, and these guys have just done a huge amount of damage to all of these villagers. Moving out on the wood, personally, this wood was denied once. I would have gone back there and just put a defensive tower, or you could also put a short wall here to force the units into TC range. Also, maybe even just walling off this backside just to, you know, keep any units out, even though it's all towered up. But I think going out on these exposed resources with only a couple of towers to defend and no units, these are sort of defensive structures, but against units, you really do need units. If we also take a little look, I think going for the Imperial Academy also is quite good. It gives you the Song Dynasty, so that's how he was able to produce more villagers. But spending those resources on units to defend and then doing whatever he wanted to do, that probably would have worked out a bit better. So Knightmeh's strategy of doing the towers, I think I expected the Barbican drop much earlier, but trying to deny those berries was a lot of idle time for both players, and because the Chinese player was idling 9 villagers, that actually worked out in Knightmeh's favour. I think the Barbican over here is actually pretty good because it denies gold, stone and most of the wood, and then he was able to come around here and secure up the other side of that wood. So this main safe, supposedly, wood line has actually just been completely denied. If he'd have continued to go around here, so he's denied this side, if he'd have got a front tower over here and completely denied this wood, he could have just kept going with that, but he went for units instead, which I think is pretty good. On Knightmeh's side, I think maybe just preemptively just building like a couple of safe walls. Obviously he has map control, but with all of these villagers over here by the Barbican, that's potentially a threat of dropping a production building here and doing some huge damage. So if we take a little look at Knightmeh's vision, we can see that he doesn't actually know that any of these buildings have been dropped. I think we can't actually see from the vision there, but I think when you see the Barbican being dropped, you always want to double check around the Barbican to make sure that those villagers haven't stuck around and like an Imperial official here. You wouldn't be able to get at them because they're so close to the Barbican, but you'd know to keep an eye on this area to stop those villagers building a Chuganu literally in your base and running across you. So I think this is definitely a matter of after the Barbican rush, whether the red Barbican rush was the right idea. I would personally say no, but I'd like to see what you think in the comments. But I think The fact that Knightmeh went heavily into units and our Chinese friend didn't was the real difference here, that aggression definitely beats this turtle style, and because there was no strong defenses, no hand cannon slits and no units, he just steamrolled through and just decimated that villager count. So a fantastic play from Knightmeh there, and a really interesting mirror match with some double Barbican, and who doesn't like seeing a bit of double cheese in one of these videos? So let's zoom in, take a little look. So I hope you've enjoyed this Chinese mirror, and remember, if you want to see your games casted, then all you have to do is send me your details of your game and stuff like that, and I will do my very best to cast it if the replays are still available. But enjoy what you're doing for the rest of the day, have a fantastic time, and I will see you next time for another casted video.